The resolution before you asks for a moratorium on all trials and suspensions for violations of the Book of Discipline regarding same-gender weddings as a first step to stopping the harm to the LGBTQ community. But I urge you not to stop there. We are causing soul-level harm by judging self-avowed practicing LGBTQ persons as incompatible with Christian teaching and denying them Christian marriage and ordination. The Bible, when interpreted using scripture, tradition, reason, and experience, rather than literalism, which is not Methodist, supports their full inclusion in the life of their church. This is not an issue about which we can respectfully disagree. These are people who are being harmed in body, mind, and spirit. We are driving people away from the God who in love created them LGBTQ, dividing families and espousing a theology that has led to the suicide of thousands of LGBTQ young people. It's time to stop the harm. I recently received this letter from a prominent leader in our community with whom I have worked. I share it with you because there are people, young and old, just like him in every single one of your congregations, many of them in hiding. Dear Diane, I want to thank you for standing up with and for me the day I shared with our working group that I was gay and that I grew up in a church that told me that God could not love me as I am. And the people in that church, including my own family, made it clear that therefore they could not love me as I am. To this day, I struggle with people who proclaim Jesus because that is almost code for me that I do not belong. And that impedes my willingness to be in a relationship with people of faith. When I shared this in the group and you spoke up, apologized for the harm that the church had caused me and had inflicted upon so many other LGBTQ people over the years, and asked for my forgiveness, you could not have known how desperately I needed to hear those words. My mother had just passed and disowned me on her deathbed because the church had told her that she had to choose between God and her gay son. When you stood up for me, told me I was loved in all my identity, and asked for my forgiveness, you opened a path for me back to God. As a senior pastor at Bearing, hardly a week goes by that I do not receive a phone call or email or have an in-person conversation with someone who has experienced that same kind of deep wounding at the hands of the church. Neither Bearing Memorial nor I can continue to participate in that harm. We are leaving. Bearing, after 173 years of faithful service and as a deeply Methodist congregation, and I after 15 years of service, not because we do not love the United Methodist Church or you, we do, deeply, but ending the harm that our affiliation is causing to people loved by God in all their identity is more important than staying, even with all that history. A colleague on the cabinet once challenged me saying, Diane, if you believe that strongly that the UMC is wrong, maybe you should lay down your credentials. And so I am, because I do. To my clergy colleagues, I love you. It has been my great privilege to work beside you. Many of you know we have this wrong, but are afraid to stand up because of how it might impact your appointments, current and future. And you are right, it could indeed cost you to speak up. But I promise you that in every one of your congregations, there are children, young people, and adults who are longing for someone with authority to stand up for them, to tell parents and grandparents they do not have to choose between God and their LGBTQ children and grandchildren. Instead, they can and should fully embrace and celebrate them. To tell children and young people they don't have to hide in the shadows. They are loved by God just as they are. We cannot wait any longer. Lives are literally at stake. To the cabinet leadership, I love you. It has been my great privilege to work beside many of you. The clergy under your charge who support full inclusion do so based on serious study of the scriptures and deep convictions. They need and deserve your support. And to all LGBTQ laity, family members, and allies, thank you for your hard work in seeking to bring the UMC to a place of full inclusion. I ask your forgiveness for the harm that we, your clergy, have caused with our silence. I urge you to keep speaking, keep standing, keep reaching out in love to those who are being harmed by the incompatibility stance of the church. Your efforts matter. Children, grandchildren, and adults are listening. Every time you stand up, you offer the possibility of healing and hope. I'm deeply grateful for your courage and your witness. You are my heroes. We must stop judging self-avowed practicing LGBTQ persons as incompatible with Christian teaching and prohibiting their marriage and ordination. It is neither biblical nor Christian, and we need to stop it now. Observing a moratorium is not enough, but it would at least be a step in the right direction. Please vote yes on the resolution. Thank you.
Friends,